So 3 months on YouTube, 33 videos after this one. I've just made a video about my 3-month journey as a full-time YouTuber. And that was more about analytics and stats and strategy and that sort of thing. But in this video, I wanted to go into a little bit more of the psychology side of things, because it's something maybe doesn't get talked about quite enough. And it's actually something that's really important, because I've experienced quite a lot of the struggles and the effect of psychological aspects of actually doing this. So I wanted to talk to you about them today, and it's going to sound maybe like, as a full-time person on YouTube, that there's a lot of negatives. And that's not the purpose of this video. I'm going to give you some solutions to the problems as well. But what I want to point out is that my channel is about reality. It's not about covering stuff up or about telling you everything's good, because it's not all the time. And I'm not going to allow you, though, to use it as an excuse. So I'm going to give you solutions to the problems so that you don't try and use them as a way to chicken out of doing your own channel, because that is not what my channel's about. But I do want to present you with the reality. So think about it as, what can we say, preparation. If you're thinking about starting a channel, or you're new and you're struggling to grow and you're wondering, should I keep going? Should I give up? Well, think about this as preparation, because you're not the only person who's going to have struggles, nor am I. And there are solutions. So see this as a preparation, so that when you encounter one of these problems, that you think, oh, I've heard about that before. I know how to fix that. There's other people that are in the same boat as me. I'm not alone. So that brings us on to the first thing I was going to talk about, is loneliness and isolation. Now, YouTube is a real solo project, isn't it? You sit in a room on your own, talking to a camera. You get no feedback. You've got no colleagues to talk to. Your family may be out and busy, or perhaps you're a single person. And so you don't have people around. And as an introvert myself, I don't struggle too much with it, but I still feel it. I do still feel the isolation compared to my previous job, where I had colleagues to talk to all the time. And so if you're not an introvert and you're actually an extrovert, or somebody who really needs people around all the time, then it could be really tough. So what you really need to do is you need to find a community, either on channels like mine or on forums or anywhere that you can, basically, to find other people who get it, other people you can talk to, who know what's going on, what it's actually like for you as a YouTuber. Because most people won't get it, they won't understand, and so there's no real use talking to those people, because they just don't get it. Now, another thing you can do is go out in public, and I don't mean you have to film your videos out in public, although I have done a video on that if you want to check it out. But what I mean instead is that you go out and you sit in a coffee shop and do your editing, for example. So that, let me just turn you away from the sun. So you've got some sort of social side. If you go to somewhere like a library, a coffee shop, or whatever, at least you've got people around. At least you feel like you're part of something. You're not in a room on your own in the dark filming videos and talking to yourself. So consider that you can go out and do stuff. There's co-working spaces. I mean, there's all kinds of solutions. You just have to find them. And, you know, it's okay to take a break and go out as well. You don't need to be doing this 24 hours a day. It might feel like it at first. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But it might feel like it sometimes, but you don't. It is okay to take a break. And things will improve as you get better, as you develop systems and you get faster at this. It takes less time. And you've got to understand that the start is not the same as the end. The start is a big push, a big grind. It is hard. It does take a lot out of you. It doesn't mean it's always going to be like that, because at some point, when you've made it where you want to be, you're going to be able to step back. You're going to be able to pay someone to do your editing, for example. You're going to be able to do all these things that are going to make a massive difference to the amount of time and, in a sense, effort you need to put into this. Or you can put that effort into the parts you actually enjoy. So the start is not the same as the end. So just consider that. Now, you might think no one gets it. And you're probably quite right. You often find that you're working in secret. You don't want to share what you're doing, because as soon as you say, I'm starting a YouTube channel, or I run a YouTube channel, or whatever it is, you may get a response that's positive, but you may also get, oh, so you're a YouTuber then? You're going to be a YouTuber? And I think what those people are implying when they say that is that they think you're going to be some kind of screaming teenager making gaming videos and smashing up his keyboard. And of course, that's not the case, because if you turn around to them and say, and they ask, what do you do? And you say, I'm an accountant, I'm a social media consultant. They're going to say, oh, that's interesting. You can say, I'm a video editor, a copywriter, a filmmaker, a public speaker, a coach, an administrator, a teacher, an entrepreneur, a sound engineer, a salesperson, an accountant. Any of those things, people are going to turn around and say, well, that's interesting. Well, yeah, guess what? On YouTube, I'm all of those things at the same time. So the term YouTuber is not very useful. I would persuade you to come up with an alternative if you are going to talk to people about this, because then you probably avoid a lot of the questions anyway. And if you don't, you can obviously talk about it in the way that actually makes it sound like a proper thing, because it is a real thing. Of course it is. It's harder than a lot of people's jobs, and it involves much more time commitment and much more knowledge and being a jack of many trades. So just when someone asks you, and if they start talking in that way, then that's your response. You can say any and all of those things, and you won't be lying. Now, you don't need to tell anyone, of course. You don't need to tell anyone what you're doing. And you can wait until you've actually proved it, because when you start out and you're not successful, then of course you feel a little bit like an imposter. You feel like you're not successful, and so you haven't got a right to talk about it. But actually, if you think about it, once you do manage to prove it and maybe start earning even some money from it. I mean, the other day I earned $2.32 from Amazon Associates, from an affiliate link I had in the description of one of my videos. So whoever has been clicking on those, thank you very much. That's very much appreciated. But, you know, I earned $2, but I still earned money online from my YouTube channel. So in a sense, I've already started earning. Now, it's insignificant at the moment, but once you get to, let's say, 1,000, then maybe you can talk about it more. Maybe when you're monetized, you can sort of start to say, well, actually, I can do this, because you can then do what most people can't. So don't talk about it at first until you get to a position where you feel comfortable about it. Now it brings us on to physical and emotional tolls of this. You're the boss. In this whole thing, everything's down to you. There's no sick days, there's no holidays. You're accountable for everything. And I've struggled with this recently when I've been on holiday and I haven't been able to make videos, and I've been scrabbling around before I go, trying to make extra ones, which were, you know, not great, maybe. They were okay, but they're very short, and they were just token videos just to, from my perspective, keep the algorithm happy. Not sure if that even works, but I did it anyway. So it's tough when all the responsibility's on you and you've got pressure to perform. I mean, right now I'm sick. I'm walking around. I've managed not to cough yet, so I haven't needed to maybe to do too much editing. But still, I've got a spider in my ear or something. Still, it's a lot of pressure to perform. Like I said, no sick days. So also what I've found is that as I've got older, I sleep worse anyway. But I think that running this channel has had some kind of effect on my sleep, because I do wake up in the middle of the night and I can't get back to sleep. And then I think, oh, I'll just have a quick look at the studio and I've gained some subscribers, great. And then I see someone's commented and I think, oh, well, I can't get back to sleep anyway. I'll just comment back. And I think it's not so much that side of it. I think what it is the fact that I know that there's a point that's going to come when my money that I'm living on at the moment runs out. And when that happens, I don't know where I'm going to be with this channel. I've seen some momentum recently, but is it going to be enough when it comes to that final day? Now, I do have a decent amount of time longer, and I'm looking into the options on that at the moment to extend it as much as I can. But there is that pressure that I might have to go and get a regular job again. Now, I've been doing that, obviously, for many years. I'm 47. But it's not what I want to do now. It's not where I see myself. It's not where I see my future. So, what can you do about all this stuff? Well, stress and burnout and rushing stuff is just gonna end in burnout. So, you've got to take a step back and realize it's okay to take a break sometimes. And as I go on and progress, I realize that I actually do get faster. I get better at this. I streamline my processes and I cut out a bit of fluff. I'm not that good at that, but I cut out some fluff and I don't worry too much about perfection anymore. I start to move away from that. And what I realize is that, I made a 30-minute video the other day, but sometimes you can just make a 30-minute video into 6 5-minute videos, for example, because you don't have to do it all in one go. So there's ways to shorten things, cut things, be more efficient, and just get better at the whole process. So something somebody said to me once was that there's always a solution. And he said, what if someone holds a gun to your head? And I said, well, you can try and talk them around, or you can fight, or I don't know. And he said, yeah, or you can just let them shoot you. I said, what are you talking about? You're crazy. And I thought he was mad. But then I thought about it a little bit, and what I realized he was trying to say is that if you can learn to accept your situation and then find a way to come to terms with it, you can probably find a solution to it. So if you've lost your life savings, for example, well, you might want to go and jump off a bridge, but could you instead go and get it back? And yeah, it sucks. Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, it seems like the worst thing that's ever happened, but can you get through it? I think you can. I think you can get through pretty much anything. And I've seen that in my career. I've seen the most terrible of situations, as you can imagine. And people have got through them, and I've got through them. So I think you just got to be willing to push on and have the grit and determination to keep going and realize not everything's going to be perfect. And it's going to be hard sometimes. Because self-doubt and your expectations are also going to be different. I mean, if you think about putting out a video, cobweb again, you put out a video and you think, this is great, this content's good, I'm going to release this and it's going to go viral, and then of course nothing happens. And that's quite common. And then your worst videos, they completely do go viral. And your biggest ones, your best ones, flop. So sometimes there's just no reward. There's no feedback. You release a video, 5 people watch it, nobody says anything, there's no likes, there's just nothing. And you start to think, well, maybe I suck. Now that's possible, especially at first, but often it's just YouTube that sucks, especially at first. And I've made plenty of videos about that, so I'm not going to talk about it too much here, but it might not be you, it might be YouTube. And if all you need is that 1 in every 2.7 million people to like you to get 1,000 subs, then, well, I think you can do it. And I think that you've got to keep track of those highs and lows. You've got to think, okay, when you have something good happen on YouTube, one of your videos does well, or you get some good comments, make a little note of it somewhere in a little notepad or something, because it's very easy to forget that those things have happened when something goes wrong. I remember the other day when I was looking at my subscribers and I'd got that nice boost, which I talked about in my 3-month video, and I was really happy. I was in my kitchen, listening to some music, cooking away, dancing around a bit, you know, as you do. And yeah, I thought everything's great. And then I think I lost a subscriber or something. And I'm not even sure I did lose one. I think sometimes YouTube almost blocks somebody or assesses them whether they're real, and then they reinstate them again, because I often see one goes down and then it just goes back up a couple of hours later. Anyway, but I lost a subscriber. And then you start to think, as the good feeling wears off, a few days have passed, you see that the numbers are dropping a bit more back to what they, maybe not back to what they were before, but a little bit more close to your normal subscriber gain. And then you lose one, you start to think, oh, this is the end of the world, everything's gone wrong. That was one fluke video, one lucky chance that I took. It's never going to happen again. And now it's done. And it's not. Because if you just think back to that feeling you had when you had the good stuff happen, even if it's your first subscribe or your first comment or whatever it is, you're going to realize that these things happen quite often, and you need to hang on to them because you need them when things get tough. You need to be able to go back and say, oh yeah, I remember how I felt there. Okay, that's coming again. That's going to happen again. I'm going to make it happen again. So make a note of stuff and just put out what videos you think are good. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Just put out what you think is valuable, and the rest doesn't matter. And it's probably YouTube that sucks a lot of the time, and not you, because they haven't found your people. So when they have found your people, then you maybe can start looking at, okay, what can I do better? There's some people who've failed for years on YouTube. Of course, at that point, maybe you do have to ask yourself, what is it I'm doing here? Maybe I need to do something different. You need to change or adapt, perhaps. You need to try something new, because what you're doing, I guess, isn't working. You might be too narrow a niche or just too unusual. Maybe you have something else to talk about that's much more accessible for people. So you need to have a rethink. You can't look at people who've been on years and never got anywhere and say, oh, well, they failed. Well, yeah, maybe, but they might need to change something. They might need to do something new. And that's part of this, isn't it? Adapting and understanding what's happened here and what can I do to make it better. And you can get help with that from people like me and people that you network with, and get an honest opinion from somebody who gets it. But I think ultimately you've got to ask yourself in this whole thing, why are you doing this? Because it's easy to think about quitting. It's easy when it gets tough to say, oh, well, this sucks, I'm out. But why were you here in the first place? What were you trying to do? Because I think you were here for a reason. I think you found yourself on my channel or wherever it is you are on YouTube. And if you're thinking about starting or you have started, there's a reason that you want to do that. And so I think you need to write down what that reason is. What are you trying to achieve? But I also think you need to write down why you're doing it. What are the negatives of your situation at the moment? If you're in a job, what don't you like about that job? Because it's easy at that moment to understand what you don't like about the job. But then what happens is, over time, that fades away a little bit and you forget what you didn't like, or it gets dumbed down a little bit. And so you start thinking, oh, well, it wasn't so bad there, was it? It probably was. If you ended up in this situation where you're trying to do something to get out of it, it probably was bad. So write it down, because you'll realize then, I think, that, okay, there is some negatives to doing YouTube. Of course there is, like anything. But there's also a lot of negatives to your regular job and life and whatever it is that you're currently doing, that you're trying not to do anymore. So record that too, because all of that you can use as evidence to say, this is why I'm doing this. Because YouTube's going to test your grit, it's going to test your determination, and it's going to ask a lot of you at times. But what is it you're trying to achieve? Because in 5 years, are you going to look back at yourself and realize, I should have done that? I gave up, but I should have done that. And you know how I know that? It's because I've done it. I had a channel that was at monetization levels. I never even monetized it. I never even clicked the button. I didn't even realize, because I'd left that channel, and while it was somewhat successful, I got promoted. My kids were young, and I didn't feel like I could balance the lifestyle, spend enough time with my kids, plus the extra responsibilities at work. And I liked my job at that time as well. So I felt, okay, it's maybe too much. So I'll quit the YouTube thing because I don't need it, because I'm happy. But of course, over time, then you realize, okay, there was a lot of negatives in my job. And in the end, it got where I was using all my energy to try and fix and help other people. And then you think, well, where's the energy to help yourself? And so, and I realized only when I came to make this channel that I'd actually basically been monetized before. I just never applied. And so I realized I can do it. Now, imagine that was 6 years ago with only 10 videos made on that channel. Imagine if I'd continued after that 10th video, and I've been doing it for 6 years now. It's exactly what I'm trying to tell you, not to make that mistake. It's what I'm trying to tell you to do. Where are you going to be in 5 years from now? Is it going to be with your channel? Or are you going to be looking back and saying, I should have tried that, but I didn't. Imagine where I'd be now. Yeah, exactly. I've done it, so I know. So I'm talking from experience. What you've got to understand is, if you give up on whatever it is that you're dreaming about, and if you're on this channel, it's probably a YouTube channel. If you give up, you're going back to whatever it is that you didn't like before. Is that acceptable to you? Think about it. And that really is what I wanted to tell you that I've discovered. It is tough. There's a lot of problems. There are a lot of issues. You can overcome them. And if you keep going, you'll probably get where you want to. If you give up, you'll be back where it is that you didn't want to be. Simple as that. Hope that helps, guys. See you in the next video.